Here they come. Welcome, everybody. So great to see you all. As you can see, we are streaming live into the Facebook group at the moment, but so good to see you all. I'm so excited. I can't tell you, like literally, I've been buzzing all morning. I've been adding more and more to this. And those of you who know me love a little bit of a workshop and I love a bit of an interaction. So I'm super excited to get into this with you today. And what we're going to do is, first of all, we're going to start by just doing a little bit of a centering meditation, just a little prayer, just to get our minds right, to land us in this space. And then we're going to crack on with the workshop. I'm going to explain how everything is going to work, what we're going to be covering today. But yeah, really excited to get into this with you. So first of all, if we just get our minds right, let's just close our eyes. You can bring your beautiful hands together. You can move them around, create a little bit of heat, a little bit of friction, just to bring your presence and your awareness into this space, into this moment right here, right now. And then just resting your hands at your heart space and taking a nice, long, slow, deep breath in through the nose. And then letting it go. And again, nice, long, slow, deep breath in, maybe raising your shoulders up towards your ears. And then exhaling, just letting that go. And just in this moment, I'm just so grateful for technology that allows us to connect across the country, across the globe, that we can come together to share our consciousness, to share in these processes. So in this moment, I just recognize the infinite potential of each and every moment, knowing that each and every moment contains the infinite potential to go in any direction, at any space, any place in time. And just knowing that truth, knowing that expansive truth for each person here on this call. I just recognize their infinite potential as we sit here today, activating our soul's desires, coming back to the truth of who and what we are, knowing that we are the infinite creators, the powerful creators, the eternal spirits, the eternal spiritual beings. And I just hold each and every person who is here present on this call today or who is joining us in some now moment in the future, knowing that in the quantum there is only now. So I just release this up to the universe, knowing that this session, this workshop, this beautiful workshop, this collection of souls will be perfect, whole and complete, just as it is. Knowing that my words have power, knowing that my words are activating universal law, natural law of manifestation, of creation, of pure potential, of oneness, of unity. I speak this out into existence, knowing that it is done, it is done, it is done. This or something better is already on the way. Knowing that it is done, we can together say, and so it is. And so it is, you guys. Amazing. So I know that some of you already know each other, but I would love to just get a little bit of activity in the chat. This is going to be super interactive. So I'm going to encourage you very much to be active in the chat and chatting to each other, asking me lots and lots of questions. So like I said, I know that some of you know each other already, but for those of you who don't know each other, I'd love it if you could just pop into the chat whereabouts in the world you are, basically. So I'm in Devon, I'm in Totnes. I think most of you know that, but it'd be good to just get a little bit of a gauge as to where we've got people calling in from today. I know we've got some over in Europe, ula. Amazing. So as I say, guys, those of you who know me well enough to know that I, as a generator in human design as well, I really love to get loads of responses, loads of questions. So I just really encourage you to be super active in the chat. Make sure that you've got a notebook and a glass of water or something. We might have a break sort of halfway in the middle, just to be able to go and like have a pee break and, you know, go and get a drink or whatever. But I just want you to make sure that you are in a space where you're not going to be disturbed. So we've got people from Leighton Buzzard, we've got the West Midlands, Totnes, Gateshead, so all over the UK. Really, really great. Love it, love it, love it. I know there's a few people who might be joining us in a bit, and those people who are going to be joining us watching the replay. So like I said, this is one of my favorite topics If you know me, you know I love getting organized. And this is something that I do on a regular basis. And I thought, why not share this process with you guys? So, as I say, I know there are some of you who've gone through this process with me in the life map journey that we did before Christmas. But really, my intention today is to just bring to you a little bit of, making sense out of the chaos. Like I said in the post, it's like this time of year, this end of Q1, spring equinox, all of that kind of stuff just gives us the perfect opportunity to reflect really on where we've come, or how far we've come, what we achieved over the last quarter, and then to set our sights on what we want to do and achieve for Q2. And this is really when we live with intention, when we are using our energy consciously, seeing what worked, seeing what didn't. So in terms of how today's going to work, we're going to review the last quarter with some authenticity and just being really real with ourselves, reflecting on what worked, what didn't work, and really just kind of like tuning into, how that is a reflection of our consciousness. But we're going to review the last quarter. Then we're going to turn our sights towards where it is that we want to go. Really setting the trajectory, finding the seeds and planting the seeds as to what it is that we might want. And that question, what do I want, can sometimes be a little bit of a gray area. For some people, it can be a bit like, well, I don't know what I want. So we've got some tools and some tricks to help us to tune into what it is that we actually want. So we're going to look into that. And then we're going to use a couple of different meditations and tools that are going to help us to activate our soul's desires, and then activate this sort of quantum activation, making you become the magnet for what it is that you want to receive. Okay, so practical spirituality, really getting into there, really being honest with ourselves so that we can actually start to create and craft the life that we actually really, really want. So first of all, what I would love for us to do is to basically start with this kind of, like I said, the first thing we need to do in order to know where we want to go, we need to kind of understand where we've come from. So I'm going to play some music for you in a little bit. But basically, the first thing we really want to do is we kind of want to look at, the last 3 months and look at what happened, look at what we did, look at what worked, and look at what, what didn't necessarily work. But what I want you to do right now is to grab your piece of paper and pen, and I'm going to give you sort of 3 to 5 minutes, somewhere around there. And first thing that we're going to do is, what I want you to do is just right at the top of your page, you're just literally going to kind of brain dump, going to do a timeline review. So this is an opportunity to just remember what happened. What have you done over the last 3 months? So just write 3 columns, like January, February, March, however it works for you. If you want to do them horizontally, that's fine, like January, February, March. Or if you want to write like 3 sections, January, February, March, and just take a little bit of time right now to remember what happened. So write down some of the big events that happened. Maybe if you did any initiatives, what did you do from January until now? So just take 5 minutes or so, and I'll give you a heads up when the time is nearly running out. So just get going. Just start brain dumping onto the page. What did you do January to March? about halfway. Just about a minute left. And as you're kind of wrapping this exercise up, what I'd love you to do is just maybe circle and star some of the things, the wins, the biggest wins that you had over the last quarter as you look at that list. What are you really proud of? Just starting to power down the last few words onto the page. Amazing. Okay, guys. So what I'd love for you to do now, in no particular order, I might call on someone, but I'd love if you would like to unmute yourself and let's celebrate, let's brag. You know, we don't do this enough. I'd like you to celebrate yourself. So if nobody speaks, I'm going to pick someone. And so who would like to go first in celebrating their wins? What worked well for you? What are your wins from Q1? Go on then, Sarah.
I've successfully gone back to work after having a year out.
Amazing. Yes.
Yeah.
Congratulations. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Anything else on your list that you want to share?
Well, a few times I've just got myself back into a good routine after something like sickness or something else, and it is a struggle to do so, but when I get onto it, it feels really good. So yeah, like a couple of times I've done that.
Amazing. 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 Nice work. Amazing. Right. Who would like to go next? Go on then, Karen.
Okay. There's nothing really exciting because I've not had good news with my heart. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So basically, I can't have my cosmetic operation now, not for a while. I've been given extra tablets. I've got to have a new scan. My heart's not working as it should. I should be. Normal people are on the scan. Normal people are 50 to 75, 42. And if I go below 40, I'm at risk of a heart attack. So anyway, that's why he's up my. So that's not such good news in January. February, I had my hair off, highlighted. So I'm happy about that. And in March, I've continued to go swimming. I've continued to do a little bit of exercises in the gym, but not overexerting myself. So I've kept myself going. But what I have done, I haven't gone back to work. So I've joined a spiritual group, a spiritual church. So that's been, really good.
Love it.
Going tomorrow for another couple of hours. And I'm also doing a the Saturday after, I'm doing the singing bowl.
Love it. You should come down to Totnes, Karen.
Yeah. I mean,
You'd love it, Diana.
I've always wanted to do, but I've never really had to go in there. And when I went, to be quite honest, I was a little bit apprehensive at first, but as soon as we went in, it was really strange, because one of my favourite songs of all time is Louis Armstrong, Wonderful World. And as soon as we walked in, they said, right, we'll do a hymn. I said, we'll do a hymn first, a song. And that was the song.
Amazing.
And straight away I felt them. And I didn't realise that in this spiritual church, some of you may already know, but I didn't even know that we sang. We sang joyful songs as well, like Joseph and Elizabeth, Technical Dream Codes and things like that. Very kind of uplifting. So I feel like.
Love it, Karen.
So that's
Thank you.
It's an achievement in me.
Yeah. Amazing. I mean, this is the point, right? It only matters you versus you, kind of thing. It doesn't matter what everybody else is doing. The point of this exercise is really to just like enlighten us as to what is lighting us up, what feels really good. Where did we achieve, quote unquote achieve? But in terms of, like you just said, it's like it's an achievement for me. I took a step forwards in that direction, Sarah doing what she's doing. So love that story. Amazing. Who'd like to go next? Go on then, John.
Hello. Can you hear me okay?
I can hear you perfectly.
Excellent. Okay. It's a really interesting exercise, isn't it? Because you don't realize what you do until you look back. I've had a real kind of contrasting first quarter, because I normally hibernate January, February, March. I really, contract and pull my energy back in, but I've been forced out for a couple of things, and that's been interesting. So on January I had the mass protest on Dartmoor. That was part of organising, so I was pulled out of my hibernation to sort that out. And February I had my black dog outdoors walk that I took, so which takes a lot of energy going back out. And March was obviously very unexpected trip to Cyprus with my mom to really nurture that relationship, which was really quite beautiful, but again pulling me out of that hibernation. So yeah, it's been a quarter of contrast where I'm like, no, I just want to stay in my little cave, but being pulled out as well. So yeah, which has been exhausting at the same time.
Interesting. And really, like I said, the point that you just really touched on is that when we do reflect on, because sometimes these things can pass us by, these things that we do, but this is why, I sort of started making this jar of, I just put, I don't know if that's reversed for you guys or whether it's the right way around, but, so I made a point of just writing down these little wins, these things that we do, these aha moments, even, like you were just saying, Joe, I was like, oh, actually, when I get tempted out of my hibernation, good things actually happen, so it's just this recognition of where our energy is being best used, when we get lit up, and following those breadcrumbs, really. So love that. Did you have anything else you wanted to share?
No, I think I'm just at the point now that I'm starting to reevaluate, restart. I've started weights. That's one thing as well. I've started lifting weights because I'm at that time of my life that they keep saying that you're going to be lifting weights. So yeah, I've started weights class. So and stop swimming, which is really quite a big thing for me, just to see how I feel. So I'm trying new things, trying to shake it up a little bit.
Yeah, love that. Yeah, we are not stagnant beings. We're meant to be dynamic and shift and change, so love that. Thanks for sharing. Cool. And let's, I think we've got time for everybody. So let's have a win. Who'd like to go next?
I don't mind.
Go on then, Julie.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
That was, again, one of those amazing experiences where you think, gosh, well, why didn't I look back and do this before? It might have added up to why I've got into everything I've got into. January was just absolutely full on, like in really good, but really still cancer way as well. So I look back and all the appointments that I had to go through and all the new diagnoses I had to cope with. When you'd finished all your treatment and you thought it was all over, that was still going on in January.
and I was doing the fight to keep myself going. And I'd like made a list of all the friends, old and new, that I'd kept in contact with, and that's what's making me buzz. It was the connection with lots of different people, making sure they starred. That was amazing. Coaching session with you was amazing, and that probably started me doing other things as well. And again, it was always connected with relationships. And I actually wrote in January, like, you know, come on, make an action for happiness. And it's like, oh gosh, that went down the pan. It was like, and I could see why straight away. So January was full on, real mix. February, I was still trying to do the action for happiness and trying to make sure I got good connection and good time with people that I care about. And then it was also filled with preparing to go back to work. And then I can see that my diary goes empty with not just the going back to work, but the preparation to go back to work. And the connection with friends has probably dropped somewhat because I couldn't fit it in. The swimming that I started in January, that is gone completely. And I want that so much. And even the nice walks out in the peak and doing different, like, longer walks, they've gone. It's like, it's really good because it's seen what meant a lot to me that's gone.
Yeah.
And I've put a sad face and a smiley face next to the return to work at the end of Feb. That, as you know, went for 3 weeks and then has died a death. And I'm really grateful for that now, because I'm learning my limitations at this moment. But it doesn't mean that there's lots of good stuff to come. But at the minute, it's not work.
I love that. Yeah. And I would invite you to maybe just swap out the word limitations for edges. You know, it's just your boundaries. It's not that you are less than. It's just kind of saying, oh, that's, you know, that's just my edge. And that's okay. You know, sometimes we can go beyond our edges, and on the other side of edges is growth, expansion and stuff like that. But it's just finding an edge of just like, oh, that just feels a bit, you know. So it's not a limit. It shouldn't stop you. If anything, it allows you to move in a different direction.
Yes. So and I'm accepting that I might want to do that. And rather than thinking like, you know, oh, I can't go back to work as a teacher, I'm not thinking that already. I'm thinking, okay, do you know what? If that's not for me now, what do I want to do? Because I do want purpose in my life. But at the minute, I have to rest and I have to find those good things back again. So swimming, the walking, the friends.
Love that. I love that. Yeah. Thank you, Julie. Thank you for sharing that. And and we're going to get to Iona and Ulla as well. But you really touched on a point, which is what we're going to move on to next, which is just noticing those aspects that really worked. And in your case, they were really working. Why am I not still doing them? So it's about how can we bring more of what we loved, what excited us, what worked, what we liked. How can we bring that back in? So it's great to do this reflection of just looking at, you know, well, what really worked and how can I do more of that? You know, and what didn't really work. So we know in your case, going back to work in that particular instance didn't really work. So what didn't work and how can I do less of that? Or we're going to talk about that in more detail in a moment. But just for you guys, whilst we're listening, you can kind of be looking at your list and just thinking, you know, well, what worked? How can I bring more of that in? And what didn't? And we'll talk about that now. But either Iona or Ulla, if you want to share anything, who would like to go first?
Well, the best thing is I'm really much stronger now. Got a lot of muscles. I have legs again. I put on a bit too much weight, but before, when I think I put 10 kilos on and I'm still not that thing, well, you must have been very slim and now walking a lot. I made a WhatsApp group with people. I actually found them in one of these apps where you can find friends, just women, 3, and we are walking and doing cultural things, going to some expositions. And as I looked up, it's still till January. I'm doing the Qigong, which is really good. It helps. I mean, it brings up a lot of sometimes. Today I'm still because yesterday we worked together a lot with the heart. So there are a lot of nice things which are important. I started to paint again, did a lot of crochet. Probably I have to go to work, back to work next week. And this is, I don't want this work. I mean, it's not that I don't want to work, but thinking of now I have my life. It's such nice set it. You do this, you walk, and you have the time you can. I mean, you are the owner of your time. You say, okay, then I can have to do this. And if you're working, it's just this, which will, and I tried to think, well, be happy you are able to work and you have a work and blah, blah, blah. But still nothing else is coming up.
Well, that's why you're here, Ulla. That's what's today. Oh, and Julie's just dropped a little bomb. She's just like, oh yeah, by the way, I just raised £15,000 for charity. I mean, just, you know, just drop that in there by doing a skydive.
No,
how did we not know about this?
I know that. Why was that not the top of the list? I know.
So remember you were
I want to go climbing. I would love this, but
yeah. Sorry, Ulla, I didn't mean to interrupt your thing. It just popped up there. And it's only because I know
Ulla.
She talked about like, oh yeah, I might do a skydive, and then she just went and did it, and then raised £1,500 for charity. So, but yeah, Ulla, I mean, you touched it when you said that really, like, you know, we can't make more time, but we can manage our use of time. Yeah. And you not really knowing what it is that you want to necessarily do is a good reason for you being here today. So congrats for bringing yourself here. Amazing. Thanks for sharing. And last but not least, Iona, what are your wins, my love?
So it's quite a good exercise looking back, isn't it? Because I realized January, I thought, well, I didn't do anything. I just like hibernated. But actually, that's when I had my liver operation. I was only in hospital for a couple of days. Obviously, it takes a few days to recover and stuff like that. But that was actually quite a big deal. And then I've done chemo, radio, and I've got my last session today. So that's been kind of the theme of this first quarter, really. But what I've realised looking back is because I knew I had my date to start the chemo radio, I just filled my diary with like nice little things. And I realised I need a deadline because I did an awful lot more in the first kind of 3 weeks of January than I'd done in the whole kind of month before because I had a deadline. So yeah, seeing friends, going for walks, nothing too major, but just lots of lovely things. So that's moving forward. I realise I need a bit of discipline. And yeah, it comes down to those kind of connections and who you want to spend your time with.
Amazing. Yeah, I love that. So much self-awareness too. And yeah, it's such a simple exercise. But how often do we actually, I mean, this is why I wanted to create this workshop, because I'm guilty of it myself, that I have all these good intentions sometimes of like needing and wanting to do certain things. But sometimes we actually just have to dedicate a bit of time to this exercise, just sitting down and reflecting on how far we've come, what we've actually achieved. You know, that was just 5 minutes. And we've already, you know, pulled together these incredible wins, these skydives, these bits and bobs, you know, it's absolutely amazing. So really well done. And so the next part of this really is to, you know, take a leaf out of your own book and just go, okay, well, how do I do more of what worked? So we're just going to, we're going to do just a little bit of an exercise, and I'm going to play some music. And basically what I'd love for you to do is to just make a bit of an action plan. So you've all already kind of intimated that there were things that you were doing that you aren't now doing and that you want to bring back. So how can you do more of what you love, you know, do more of what excited you, do more of what worked this last quarter, right? So just kind of make a plan. And like you said, Iona, not only sort of making a deadline, but how can you schedule it in, you know? So it might be that you make a date with yourself each week to go on a walk, and it might not be that you can make that exact same time every single week, but you make a date with yourself. So you just say, right, you know, I'm going to just put Friday mornings to be my thing to do X, Y, and Z, right? So just making a little bit of a brainstorm as to, you know, how you can do more of what worked. Maybe you want to embellish on something, build on something. You know, you've done a skydive now, Julie. What's next? You know, so kind of building on what's worked and saying, how can I do more of that? Because if you think about your energy and your enthusiasm like currency, you know, like you only want to spend your currency where it's really well used. Okay. So with that, you know, when you look at your list and when you look back at the quarter, also be really honest with yourself about what didn't work, what felt like hard work, what felt like you were pushing water uphill, what felt stressful, you know, what really pushed you to your edges and your boundaries that was just like, it just didn't feel nice. Okay. And you don't necessarily have to like know what the alternative is or the plan. But what I invite you to do is to, with those things that didn't necessarily work out, the things that perhaps you didn't get that you wanted, or the things that you did try that didn't work, you know, so if you're running your own business, for example, maybe an initiative or a launch just flopped, or, you know, you're not feeling very lit up in the work that you're doing. You know, so it's just kind of a case of like looking at, well, where didn't I feel lit up? Where didn't I feel alive? What didn't I enjoy? And next to those things, just have a think to yourself about, okay, and there are 3 options that you can do with all the things that aren't working. So with each of those things that you're going to look at that didn't necessarily work out, you're going to ask yourself, okay, do I need to pivot this? Like, do I need to tweak this slightly? So do I need to kind of persist with what I'm doing, but maybe just tweak it a little bit, change something about it so that it does work? Maybe it needs a bit of a review. So that's the first option, is to pivot what it is or to tweak it. The second option is to, can I delegate this to somebody else? You know, if I'm not making this work, is this something that maybe I could give to somebody else to do? Can I outsource this? You know, so in terms of running a household, maybe, for example, it might be like, can I outsource cleaning to someone else? Or could I outsource this to my partner? Or could I outsource this to my kids? Whatever it is this something that I don't necessarily need to shoulder? Can I give this to somebody else? And then the third one is where we need to get really honest with ourselves and say, do I need to delete this? Do I need to just like remove this from my life somehow, you know? So like I said, in that idea of looking at your energy like currency, imagine you only had 100 quid of energy to spend each day. You want to make sure that you're spending that energy in the areas that it's going to be amplified, because when you do spend your energy in the areas that excite you, that light you up, then that's just going to grow. It's like kind of putting a deposit in a bank. You're just going to get exponential growth in your energy and your enjoyment and everything like that, and your fulfillment. So the more you can turn away from the things that are draining and sapping your energy, the more energy you will then have for the things that you do enjoy. So it's just being mindful of, where are we saying yes to the things that we probably should be saying no to? So just take a few minutes now. I'll give you another 5 minutes to do this exercise. So just review what worked, how you're going to do more of it, and then what didn't work, and how you're going to pivot it, whether you're going to delegate it or whether you're going to delete it. Just about a minute left. Just powering down the last few ideas. So I would love to hear what everyone's going to do. So specifically, and we won't open it up to everybody just for the purposes of time, but who might like to say, in terms of, giving an example of what really worked and how you're going to do more of it in the upcoming quarter. So who would like to offer their idea for their Q2, what they're going to do more of?
I can, if no one else.
Go for it, Julie.
I immediately seen what has gone. So the things that were working, I want to put back are definitely swimming and some aquafit sessions that I've tried. They were really good. I definitely want to go and lose myself more in nature, like planning the bigger walks with the emphasis on plan. When am I going to do them?
Mm-hmm.
One of the things that I realized I haven't been doing was actually getting here at my desk to journal or to write anything. And I really feel that mind dump helps. So I want to get back and doing that. And although I've been keeping real good close contact with my husband and my kids, it's a very strange one for me, but I'm just going to say for myself, but plan that in.
Mm-hmm.
Just because, again, I know when I went back to work, although they're there, they weren't there in any close sense because I didn't feel as if I had time for anything meaningful.
Mm-hmm.
So it was a real emphasis for me that I need to get back at my desk for like the planning bit, because that's quite fun as well, just to say how is the next few weeks going to go.
Love it. So when are you going to do this? What day? So what was the first thing you said?
So the first thing I said is I want to get back to the swimming and the aquafit.
So what days are you going to do that?
So I'm going to go back. I'm going to think back to the routine that worked. And I know I was always doing the aquafit on a Tuesday morning. So I thought, right, Tuesday morning.
Okay.
I even mentioned it to my daughter, actually. I said, just in case, because she's coming home for Easter from uni, I said, put your swim costume in, because I'd already got a plan that I'm thinking that'll be really good to drag her along, and a mixed bit of a morning then, aquafit and daughter.
Yeah. And how do you like to calendarize? Do you like a paper calendar? Do you have a Google calendar? What do you use?
At the moment, my time management and my view of time in general is absolutely horrendous. So at the moment, I'm having to do 3 things. So I've got my calendar on my phone. I like it in my old file of facts. So I do like my old file of facts. That's ancient. That works. And then I've also got like a weekly organizer that you pull out and put, so I can look at my file of facts, pull it out onto the week, and say, right, come on, I can see it now. That's happening. Oh, there's a gap there. What am I going to do there?
Excellent. Okay. Because
So
that's the thing is like sitting down. I would recommend doing it, on a Sunday night maybe, or a Monday morning, but just taking a little time to like look at your week. And I mean, for me, I use Google Calendar. That's the one. I mean, I do have an old fashioned calendar here.
Got one of those as well. So that's
nice. So sometimes that like things will go onto here, but in terms of like weekly appointments and what I use to plan my diary, my Google Calendar is what I use. So what I'd recommend you doing is whatever works for you, but just plug it in. So if you do use your Google Calendar, for example, put that Tuesday slot in and all the other things you said, like put them in as recurring events, plan them in.
Yes.
So they become what's called like your big rocks, as we call it, so you put those important things in first and everything else gets slotted in around it. And when you see it on your calendar, then you don't forget. So for all of you, I'd recommend just like whatever you use, paper, digital, just plug in those important things. And like I said, even if you end up like, let's say swimming needs, like you can't do that week, it's fine, but at least it's there.
Yeah, it stays there then. Yes.
Yeah, exactly. So that's what I'd recommend. And then, so in terms, thanks for sharing that, Julie. Amazing. So I'd love to now get an example from somebody of, you know, what didn't work for them that they are either going to pivot, tweak, delete, or delegate. So who would like to offer something along those lines in terms of what they're not going to be doing anymore, what they're going to be saying no to more often? Go on then, Karen.
I've swept too much under the carpet.
Mm-hmm.
In terms of where I go from here. I haven't faced the future.
Mm-hmm.
I keep living for the moment. And I know that we should. I know we should enjoy every minute of the day and everything else. But I'm not planning ahead. I'm not seeing what tomorrow brings. And I think it's because, I lost my father-in-law in January. And yesterday was his interment. It just seems to be that every few months I'm at funerals. And I know it's an age thing, you know, I'm 60 this year, so, but it just seems that it's all been doom and gloom. But I've got to stop sweeping it all under the carpet.
Mm-hmm.
I've got to. I've done that course last year and I really enjoyed it. And really, I should have signed up straight after and gone doing another one because it would have kept me focused. And I've seen something yesterday that might be of interest to me. So I'm going to ring. After we've done this, I'm ringing them today. That's something else. It's something that I want to do. It's about being an ambassador. People going through. I'm going to ring them afterwards as well.
Amazing. Good work.
But I'm guilty that I have been putting things off.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Don't feel guilty. You know, just see it as an opportunity for self-awareness of just like, oh, okay, there's something I want to tweak here, because there are no mistakes. It's just about redistributing your attention, your focus, your energy. So, you know, guilt means that we have done something, or that, you know, that we're a bad person, that we've done something wrong. And so I just invite you to see it all as an unfolding. You know, everything is working in your favor to just shape your journey. So even those bumps in the road, you know, this sort of feeling of that I'm not doing this right, you know, are all working in your favor. So I just invite you to do that. Thanks for sharing, Karen. Anyone else like to share what they're either how they're going to do more of what they love, or what they're going to drop, delegate, delete, or pivot? Who'd like to share? Go on then, Lula.
Well, delete, well, there are things, but I think at the moment I can't, because I don't have the money.
Okay, interesting.
Like the garden work.
The universe says, and so it is.
Yes.
It's always listening. It's always in your order.
2 weeks with garden work, but the hard work, which is too hard. But I didn't find a way to manage it that somebody else does it. So well.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And now what I need more. Oh, I want more going out, even more. I'm from what it was before, like somebody was always sitting at home, hardly any friends, went every time much like this. And now I want to go out, and it can't be enough. Mm-hmm. And I want more and more and more. And I want to see people, and I want to go out, and I don't want to sit at home with my headphone on and talking to internet problems for this fucking money you earn with it. I mean, if they pay me the double, probably, but I think they won't.
Love it. Okay, Ulla. So
how many on the highest mountain, and
how many times a month are you going to do this? You can do it once a month or once a week?
What?
How many times are you going to go out and stand on top of the mountains?
Oh, I mean, it's not always the mountains, but I'm going out every day.
Okay. Amazing.
I'm not able to go up the mountain every day, but at least have a little bit of view.
Okay. So like I said to Julie, as kind of pedantic as it might sound, just make sure that's written in your diary, because, you know, when we plan stuff out, when we actually like make a plan, and when we write things out, we're so much more likely. I think there is a statistic that it escapes me right now, But there's a much higher probability of you following through with all of these actions if you actually get them in your diary, calendarize them, so that there you go. What's it say?
It's a good one. It says a good plan, and it has every day you can mark like
There you go.
how you slept, did you drink enough, and all these things. It's really nice.
Amazing. So
I like the look of that, Ula. I like that.
yeah. So the secret sauce to this really is, when we're talking about manifestation and creating igniting our infinite potential and creating our dream life, the key really is about just trying to stay in the highest vibration of our light body as much as possible. So it's not rocket science, but it is just about doing more of what we love, because when we're in that space of feeling good things come to us, good things happen for us, right?
And the things you have to delete, they go on their own.
Well, it's a case of being really frugal with where you want to spend your energy, because where our attention goes, our energy flows, right? So it's just a misuse of your energy. It's what makes us exhausted. It's what contributes to burnout and just general malaise. It also contributes to dis-ease to a certain extent, so it creates illness. So it's just about being mindful of just saying, okay, that's not exactly where I want to be putting my energy. It might not be that there's a really easy way to snip it off straight away, but it's just understanding that thing that feels heavy for a reason, because it's not really meant for us, if you know what I mean. So problems per se, quote unquote, won't necessarily go away, but our reaction to them, our response to them, how we decide and what we decide to have in our lives changes and shifts. So yeah, I'm not saying that, problem relatives will go away, or, crap bosses or whatever it is, those things will still exist, and the problems in the world, quote unquote, will still be there, but we get to choose what we deal with, what is under our influence, under our control, and just say that, okay, that isn't really meant for me. It feels heavy. It feels difficult. It feels like I'm pushing water uphill. And it's just, when you are in the flow, when you think about things that do feel easy and effortless, things just flow much more easily. Yeah. So it's just a recognition, a bit like when you're going bowling. You're just bumping up against the barriers on the side. It's just not really meant for you, and you just want to kind of be in your lanes. And then the energy just flows really easy, Then there are those things that you wouldn't want to let go of at all, And so it's just about that. Gillian.
It's really interesting hearing you say that. I'm in real conflict at the moment about, I'm always one for pushing myself out of my comfort zone, because I'm very creative, and then I give myself challenges that I wouldn't normally do. One of them is being a school governor. It's very academic. It's in an area that I really don't understand, but I was determined to really have a go and just grow myself, because it's about growing yourself, isn't it? And you're never going to do that within your little comfort zone. So, but I am reaching a point with it is, God, it's just not my thing. It just bores the pants off me. And I don't feel like I'm making a difference, and I can't use that creativity. So it's that conflict, isn't it? Of I really want to grow myself and put myself out of the comfort zone and things I wouldn't normally do. But it's the reason that I don't normally do them is because they bore the pants off me. So it's interesting hearing you that. So I'm in that kind of conflict stage of, do I keep going with it and then it will become easier and I grow, or do I just go, you know what, this is just not working for me at the moment, and it's zapping my time where I could be using it elsewhere. So yeah, no, it's good to hear. So I'm still thinking. Yeah,
I mean, it's just like you say, it's something obviously to meditate on, but it is just that, think about the energy that we bring to a situation. So it's all about intention, so putting yourself into a situation where something is challenging, like what you're doing, like you said, to grow in awareness, to grow and say, I can do hard things. I mean, even that is kind of like a command. It's like a belief of no, I can do this. I can stay the course. And sometimes that comes from a deep internal belief system that is I have to do hard things, or I have to stay the course. I have a tendency to, stoically and stubbornly, once I've started something, even if I started a crap book, I used to be no, I've fucking started it now. I've got to finish it. But then it's just well, if it's not lighting you up, it's really about the energy revolution and just saying, could your energy you know, given that there is, say, like a finite amount of energy that you can use in a day, you know, and you just said it, Gillian, like in terms of your creative expression, where you want to express yourself creatively, you know, are you bringing the fullness of you to that environment, or actually could you be bringing the fullness of you to another environment where you are flourishing and thriving, you know? So it's like you can still put yourself in situations that like kind of, there's that borderline between excitement and fear, you know, so you could kind of push yourself out of your boundaries to do things that are beyond your comfort zone, because they're like, oh my God, I'm a little bit like, I'm terrified, but I'm also like really excited at the same time. So, you know, there's different types of boundaries and comfort zones, shall we say. So all for like doing different things. I think it is just that intention of, and the intentionality of like, am I just going there just to bang my head against a brick wall just to prove to myself that I can do hard things? Or am I going there because I want to practice the art of responding and, you know, responding to a situation? So I just invite you to like lean into what is the intention around, you know, going and growing outside of that comfort zone. And yeah, just in terms of where your energy would be better used or better to serve you, because when you're in that engorged state of your light body, then like I said, everything just flows much more easily. So it's not to say that you don't have to do that particular thing, but maybe it needs a little bit of a pivot and a tweak to make it more interesting and more fun. Amazing. Awesome, guys. We're going to break for just like 5 minutes now, but does anybody else have anything they want to share before we go? No? Okay, perfect. So I'm going to set my stopwatch and we're just going to have 5 minutes to go and like go for a wee, grab a coffee, grab a tea, grab a chai, whatever. So see you back here in 5 minutes. Hey Martha, you've just joined us as we've just broken for a 5-minute break. So good start, good timing. So if you want to just make sure you got a coffee or a tea, and we'll be back in about 5 minutes, all right? Okay, so you can all start to make your way back. Everyone back in the room. Welcome, welcome. Welcome, Martha. Good to see you. You've joined at just the right point, actually, because we've just broken from one section into the next one. So you're starting at the same point with everybody else for the next section. So good timing. Nice to see you. So everyone, hope you had a chance to just grab a drink, grab a wee, whatever you needed to do, grab a snack. Nice. All right, so just to catch you up briefly, Martha, the first section, which obviously you can go back and watch on the recording, is in this process, it's really important to take a moment to reflect on where we've come from. So the last section that we just did really was about reviewing, the wins and the celebrations from Q1, like what we actually achieved, looking at, what worked and how we can amplify that, how we can do more of that, getting that down in our calendars and scheduling it so that we're actually doing it, turning concepts into concrete actions, and then being really honest about what didn't really work, what didn't light us up, what felt heavy. And we went through a process of just either pivoting that, tweaking it, deciding that, yes, I could still do this, but maybe it just needs to be tweaked, or whether I can delegate things away, like give this as, somebody else's load to carry, or completely delete it from our lives entirely, saying no to the things that we're saying yes to, So just being really mindful about how and where we're spending our energy. And so by doing that process, what we do is we just enrich our life force or activate our life force much more often. And when we're in that feel-good state, when we feel good more often, then good things are attracted to us. We become a magnet for the good. We become a magnet for all the things that we want to achieve in our lives. So it'd be good for you to go back and do that exercise to review, because then already you can just sort of take a leaf out of the blueprint of what worked already and take it forwards. But now we want to look ahead. We want to start looking to the next 3 months. Quarters of the year are a good way to chunk down the year into these little bite-sized chunks. When we do this process at the end of the year, as those of you who did Life Map with me, you'll know that we get to do this process from like a 50,000 foot view, where we might look at our annual goals or even our 5-year goals, that kind of thing, like loosely setting the trajectory for the bigger picture. But what we can do as the year goes on is we can take these quarters as a good opportunity to just reaffirm and reevaluate what it is that we actually want and set our course, set our trajectory. So in terms of manifesting and, manifesting your desires and getting what you want, there are kind of 5 or 6 steps really that we want to go through. And we're going to go through sort of 3 of them in detail today. But in terms of those 6 steps, the first is that you want to really clarify your desires, like what it is that you really want. And that question can sometimes be difficult. And we're going to go into some practices to help illuminate that a little bit. So first of all, we want to clarify what it is that we want. Secondly, we want to align our beliefs to that desire. Then we want to visualize our desired outcome. And then fourth, we want to take inspired action that is in alignment with that. Then we need to sort of do more of an etheric thing, which is the 5th step, which is really trusting the process. And then the 6th step is really all about sort of holding it lightly without any expectation or too much attachment. So first step, clarifying your desires. Second step, aligning your beliefs with that desire. Visualizing your desired outcome as the 3rd step. 4th step is taking inspired action, creating your strategy. 5th step is just trusting in the process. And 6th is holding it lightly. So let's get into the first step, which is clarifying your desires. So what it is that you really desire, your intentions, your goals for the quarter. So we can do this by kind of taking inventory in the 4 areas of our lives. There are many different ways to cut the cake of life. But as those of you who've done my sort of coaching, that I tend to simplify them down into sort of 4 main categories. So if you were to look at those 4 areas, so the first area is love and relationships. The second area is health and vitality. Third area being career and money. And the fourth area being creative expression. So it's really about getting clear about what do I want or desire in those 4 areas of my life, right? And so kind of getting clear on those, we might kind of come up against like, well, I just don't know. You know, so hands up anybody when I kind of say like, well, what do you want in those areas? You're immediately thinking like, oh, I don't know exactly. Yeah. I mean, happens to me too, right? And the thing is that when we say, I don't know, or when we feel that feeling of I don't know, that sort of brain fog, it's a really good indication that we're kind of asking from the wrong place. We're trying to figure it out with our minds. That's kind of our first mistake. Because our minds are a computer. It's a thinking machine, right? But when we're trying to figure out the answer to something, the quality of our answers is going to come down to the quality of the questions that we ask. And really, when we're asking these questions, we want to be asking them more of our heart, because our soul knows, right? And when we kind of perpetuate, when we say things like, or when we immediately respond with, I don't know, we continue to kind of energize the story of, I don't know. We just get more confusion back, right? So the first kind of step in this process, especially when we feel a little bit confused and a bit lost, is to change that story from being one of confusion to being one of my soul knows. So something I like to use as a mantra is like where I will kind of say to myself like, I, quote unquote, I don't need to know because my soul knows. And when we start to just open up the dialogue in that way that just says, I don't need to know, my soul knows the answer, and I'm open and available to receive guidance, then things start to change. So in that sense, like I said, it's about receiving the guidance. It's about asking different questions. So that frustration of like, I don't know, I was thinking about it last night and I came up with kind of a funny analogy, which I think will sort of help. So do you remember the calculators that we all had when we did like maths, GCSE or A level or whatever, right? So a calculator is like this inert thing which is capable of so many calculations, but until we punch the numbers in, the display is blank, right? So us saying, I don't know what I want in terms of my career, my money, my health, my vitality and all of that is much like a calculator going, I don't know what the answer is. It's because nobody's fucking punched in any numbers, right? So it's a calculator just sitting there being frustrated because the question hasn't been asked in the right way. Like I said, your mind is a thinking machine and it will only work from the level of consciousness that you're at. So when we start to ask these different questions, these more open-ended questions of us, you know, and in terms of just like redirecting where the question is being asked to, as in redirecting it to our heart space, then the revelations start to come. And like I said, it's not so much about working it out, it's more about receiving the answers, receiving the guidance. Okay, and this is where we start to tune into our soul's desires, when we start to just say, well, my soul knows the answer. And we just keep reaffirming that. My soul knows, I've just got to wait for that guidance. My soul knows the answer. I'm ready for the guidance now, thank you. My soul knows, I'm ready, right? So that's more of the question you want to be asking, or the affirmation that you want to be saying to yourself is that my soul knows, I'm just ready and I'm waiting for the answer. All right. So with that, we're going to do a little bit of a meditation right now. And I like to call it the wouldn't it be cool as fuck meditation. Right? So this is the way that we get to activate and ask those different questions that are going to open up our soul, open up our heart's desires, okay? Where we get to create from nothing, all right? Because like I said, sometimes when we're trying to figure it out and we don't know what it is that we want to do, it's because we're coming at it from the same level of consciousness that we're at right now. But when we're trying to receive our soul's desires, we want to kind of come at it from the point of almost like a blank slate, just kind of like saying, like, forget everything that's gone before. What wants to come through me right now? You know, like, I don't know what the answer is. Let me just receive the guidance. Let's just like have that come through, right? Yeah, it's brilliant. Because it's just that, like, wouldn't it be cool as fuck if, you know, if I had this in my life? And it just starts to get you to play with your imagination, right? So it is just about like creating from nothing, saying that, okay, this is maybe what I've done before. So maybe we've been in a job for a while, you know, and that's been the job that we've done for the last 10 years. And we're just doing it because that's what we've always done. I don't know if you know that phrase, you know, if you always do what you've always done, then you'll always get what you've always got, right? So when we're trying to struggle and figure it out with the data that we've already got, then we're just going to get more of the same. If we want something different, then we need to almost like start with a blank slate, create from nothing, and just say, okay, that's what's come before. However, that doesn't necessarily dictate what my future's going to be. All right. And that's where we get to just open up to what's possible for these infinite possibilities. So we talked on life mapping about almost like these bus stops, right? Where from every single point in your life, you have the opportunity to go in every single direction imaginable. You know, there isn't a linear path that you have to follow. You know, at this point in time, you can turn left, right, up, down, whatever you want to do. You can go in any direction. You know, nothing dictates. Your past is not the precedent for your future. And that's sometimes where we can get frustrated when we're trying to figure out the answers using the data that we've already got. So now it's kind of saying, well, now I've got the choice of everything. Like, well, wouldn't it be cool as fuck if I could have that? You know? So, like I said, we're going to do a meditation now, which is going to help you to tune into the 4 areas of your life and to tune into your soul's desires. All right. So as kind of like a little bit of a warm up, let's look at those 4 areas and let's kind of do a little bit of an inventory for you, so you can kind of see like where you might be sort of, you know, wanting a little bit more guidance to receive a little bit more information. But looking at the 4 areas, so let's start with love and relationships. On a scale of 1 to 10, you know, how much would you say that you're kind of happy with this category? How much did you show up for yourself in this category? Or how much, you know, how, are you looking for breakthroughs, changes, something different? So just making a little note on your own pad or paper. You know, this is just for you. You don't have to share this if you don't want to. So where are you at on a scale of 1 to 10 in the category of love and relationships? 10 being I showed up for myself the most. 10? Nice. Love it, Karen. And if you do want to share, like I said, you know, big up for sharing and contribution. Love it, Ula. At least you're honest. You know, it's fine. It's just noticing what you notice. Okay. All right. And then in the realm of health and vitality, on the scale of 1 to 10, 10 being you showed up for yourself the most. Amazing. There you go. See? So we've got 10 from Ula. Where's everybody else on the scale of 1 to 10? 5. Okay. Nice. 7. 5. Good. Good. Awesome. And then in the area of career and money, maybe you're running your own business. Maybe you're thinking about a career change. Whatever it is, in the area of career and money, you know, if you are running your own business, you know, how much did you show up for yourself in that business? Or if you're in your career, you know, how lit up do you feel by that? Just giving yourself a mark out of 10 as to how satisfied you are in it, or how much you were showing up for yourself in that area. And then lastly, 2, is that a 2 from you, Karen? Okay. And then lastly, with creative expressions, how are you channeling your own creativity on a scale of 1 to 10? Are you expressing yourself? Are you following your passions, your hobbies? 5, okay, that's good. 6, a 2. Wonderful. Amazing. So can you see, were you about to say your number, Iona? I wasn't sure if you were about to show your number. No? So if you were to imagine that 4 corners, you know, those 4 areas, if you think of them almost being like 4 corners, you know, of a wheel or whatever, some of you have got 2 in some areas, some of you have got 10 in some areas. You know, if you were to actually try and roll that wheel, Like it would be, exactly, it would be a little bit bouncy, a little bit uncomfortable, because there are some areas where you're excelling and there are some areas where, you know, could use some tweaking. I'm not going to say improvement. It just means that you just need to make a little bit of a tweak because things aren't on fire as much as you would like them to be. So just noticing for yourself where you fall in those categories, then what you can do is you can make a note and make a point of focusing and making that area that is perhaps the lowest your biggest priority. Because all too often, you know, we get sent to school and we get taught how to be good worker bees and to, you know, you're going to do this qualification to go to university to get this job. And so we all get sort of encouraged to focus a lot on our career or our jobs. And that tends to then become the collective focus. You know, whenever you talk to somebody, it's like, what's the first question people ask? They always say, what do you do for a living? You know, nobody says, oh, how do you express yourself? You know, so it's just that like, or how's your love life? I mean, I suppose, yeah, people do ask that question, but it's about changing the narrative around what we as a collective prioritize. You know, so work has been a big priority for the collective. It's not to say that it's the only thing. Like I said, we've broken life down into 4 categories there. You could even break it down further into like 12 different categories. And if you look at your life in that way, from a really dynamic point of view, there are so many different ways you can cut the cake. And we've just all focused necessarily, you know, onto, like I say, career and work, because that's the nature of the beast. That's kind of what we've all been told we should be doing. But there are so many other parts to us. We are multifaceted, multidimensional beings, you know, so we want to make sure that we're administering to all the facets of our lives in order to have a balanced life. So for you, that's just for you to recognize and go, okay, I probably want to, you know, focus a little bit on my health and vitality this quarter, or I want to move my love and relationships up from where it is to, you know, a couple more points higher. And then you can keep reviewing that inventory each quarter and just kind of see where you're at. All right. So with that, we're going to do a little activations. Like I said, we're going to do the Wouldn't It Be Cool as Fuck meditation right now, which is my favorite. So what I invite you guys to do is just to close your eyes, get comfortable. Right. And just take a nice, long, slow, deep breath in through the nose. And then let it go. And again, nice, long, slow, deep breath in through the nose. And let it go out the mouth. Feel your body soften, your shoulders relax, your face relax. And again, nice, long, slow, deep breath in through the nose. And letting it go. Just being aware of any areas of tension in your body. Just relaxing your jaw, relaxing your eyes, relaxing your shoulders. Maybe even just allowing your lips to part ever so slightly. Coming into stillness, coming into a state of relaxation. This is really about helping our physiology to relax, opening up our nervous system, coming into our alpha brainwave state. Allowing us to be open and receptive. So that we can receive divine guidance from our soul, from our heart. So just making sure that your breath is traveling nicely and deeply down into your lower belly. Nice, long, slow, deep breaths. Just for a few moments, we're going to just bring our body into coherence by balancing the breath. So Just balancing your inhale to your exhale, whatever that count is to you. It could be inhaling for 4 and then exhaling for 4. Just making sure to balance in with the out, just for a few moments. This is about coming back into the body. Activating your feeling body. Coming back into the wisdom of your subconscious mind, which is housed in the body. For the process of this meditation, I just invite you to leave any idea of logic at the door. We're setting down the how. We don't need to know how. The universe will take care of the details. Right now, just invite you to step into your imagination. Just rolling your attention now, rolling your awareness down to your body. So looking in your mind's eye with your eyes closed, just looking down towards your heart, to your lower chakras, so your heart space, your solar plexus, your sacral chakra, your root. Just for a few moments, just breathing in and out of your heart space. If you wish, you can think, imagine or feel a vibrant color green swirling in that space. Just affirming to yourself, activating mantra, just that I don't need to know. My soul knows the answer. I'm ready and available to receive divine guidance. My soul knows the answer. So let's activate your imagination, your soul's desires. Let's unleash the energy of your heart and the divine guidance. And let's first turn our attention to the first area of your life, love and relationships. So letting go of any need for logic, letting go of the how, and just asking yourself the question, if the next 3 months went absolutely as planned, what could have happened in the area of love and relationships? What would it be cool as fuck to have in the area and the realm of love and relationships? Just allowing whatever comes to come. Repeating the mantra in your mind, my soul knows what I desire. I'm open and available to receiving the guidance. it feels sticky, if it still feels foggy, just keep affirming, my soul knows what I desire. I'm open and available to receiving guidance. My soul knows what I desire. I'm open and available to receiving guidance. And knowing that what you needed to receive in that area has come through for now. Turning your attention now to the area of health and vitality. Knowing how much you showed up for yourself in the last 3 months in this area. And letting go of any logic, just creating from nothing. Knowing that your soul knows what you desire. Asking yourself the question in the area of health and vitality. If the next 3 months went to plan and went well, what could have happened? What would it be cool as fuck to have in the area of health and vitality? What would it be cool as fuck to say that you'd achieved? Affirming, my soul knows what I desire. I'm open and available to receiving the guidance in this area. Soul knows what you desire. Be open and available to receiving the wisdom and the guidance from your heart, from your soul. just releasing, letting go of that area of your life, knowing that what needed to come through has come through for now. Turning your attention to the realm of career and money. Reflecting on how much you showed up for yourself in this area in the last 3 months. And turning your attention forwards. Asking yourself the question, what if the next 3 months went totally to plan in the area of career and money? What could have happened? Picturing yourself at the beginning of July 2023, looking back at the last 3 months. What are you looking back and saying, it's so cool as fuck that I did this, that I got that I achieved this? Again, affirming the mantra, my soul knows what I desire. And I'm open and available to receiving guidance. What are you celebrating? Allowing whatever comes to come. It might be a whisper, it might be a definite idea, it might still be blank. So just keep leaning into the affirmation that your soul knows what you desire, and your only job is to be open and available to receiving that divine guidance, to create from nothing. And then releasing, letting go of that area. And turning your attention to the realm of creative expression. Knowing and reflecting for yourself, knowing how much you showed up for yourself in this area over the last 3 months. And now turning your attention, setting the trajectory, looking ahead to the next 3 months coming. Imagining yourself at the end of Q2. Maybe it's the 1st of July and you're looking back and you're reflecting. Over the last 3 months, so looking back at Q2, April, May and June went totally to plan in terms of your creative expression via passions, your hobbies. So what happened? What would it be cool as fuck to have in the area of creative expression? Maybe you want to write a book. Maybe you want to start a new hobby. What does that look like for you? Again, just reaffirming that your soul knows what you desire, and that you are open and available to receiving the guidance from your soul in the area of your creative expression. Just allow whatever comes to come. Just allow it to bubble up from inside of you. And if you notice that you're still trying to figure it out with your mind, just be happy that you've noticed and just turn your attention inwards and downwards. Just relax and receive. If you need to, just take a nice deep breath in and just let it all go. Allow your body to soften and receive. Be open. Go of that area of your life. Releasing it up to the universe, knowing that with everything that's come through for you, it's come through for you because it is meant for you. And just knowing that our greatest ability is to just receive what is meant for us. It gets to be that easy. We just allow the universe to take care of the details as we relinquish this up to a higher power, knowing that this or something greater is already on its way. It's in the post. It's simply our job to affirm it, to declare it, to claim it as our own. So what I invite you to do right now is, whilst these visions, these aspirations are still in your mind's eye, just invite you to take a few moments just to gently open your eyes and to power down onto the page what came through for you in the areas of love and relationships, health and vitality, career and money, and creative expression. Divine guidance did you receive? I'll just give you 3 minutes just to power down onto the page what came through for you. Just powering down the last few words onto the page. Welcome back, everyone. So just as you're coming back, I'd love to hear who'd be up for sharing, who'd like to go first. What came through for you during that meditation? Go on then, Julie.
I was going to say, I think I was like really start slowing, but I think that in itself was really illuminating, because by the time you got to creative expression, I was like, yeah, I'm gonna write all the poems that I've been writing. I'm gonna do something with those. I'm gonna type them up. I'm gonna write a few more, because I've had like the seeds of poems, but then never given myself the chance to sit down here and write them. So I'm definitely going like, yeah, why haven't I been writing poems? So I'm going to do that. And then the other random was, I'm like, oh yeah, I'm going to grow those flowers, because a little while ago I decided, oh, I'm going to get into cut flower growing, just so that you don't have to buy flowers and you've just got them going on in your own garden. I'm like, yeah, where did that go? That's come back, and I'm going to get ready to grow cut flowers in that garden.
Amazing. Love it. Love it. Love it. Thanks for sharing. Amazing. And why, let me ask you, Julie, why are those things important for you to do? It's not a trick question.
No, at the moment, and that's what it told me, because that's why I was sticky in other areas. It's really important. I know it's really important now for me, no matter what the little bit that keeps saying, come on, you have to earn some money though, you've got to go back to work. Actually, no, because I'm no good to anybody at the moment. If I go back to work and get myself in the pickle I'd got myself in, my body's been through so much the last few years. And I've now decided that I have to keep that priority that me and you set during that coaching session, that my priority is to make me feel good. And I'm not quite sure. I mean, obviously that's going to continue, because whatever you build in on top, it's still got to continue feeling good. And I just feel as if I've got to go back to basics. And I think creative expression for me will be my basics at the minute.
Amazing.
And obviously the health and vitality, I didn't do anything different with that. It was like, but on top of things like the swim, and it's like, well, why do I want to do that? So I don't want it just to be about the lymphedema. I want it to be, actually, I really want to do the outdoor swimming. I want to get out and do some cold water swimming, but I'm in Stoke. I'm just in the wrong place to do it. But yeah, that I'd love to do that somewhere down the line, and just to keep me going.
Amazing. So what you've got right there is you've got your priorities for Q2. So that process is about, allowing what floats up to float up to the surface, and for it to be, that those priorities you did, they are just for you. It doesn't mean anything about you whether you do or you don't do them. It's like, I want to do them because they make me feel good, like you said, or whatever it is. So it's about identifying the goals that are for us. And what I'm trying to get at is that none of those goals that you said, like you're writing poetry because it makes you feel good, right? Different to say somebody who might say, oh, I want to write a best-selling author's book because then that means I've made it, and then that means that next to my peers I'm a success. It's like there's that difference between a soul-led goal, which is just for you and it just makes you feel good, but you just want it because you want it, and there's nothing wrong with that, versus doing something which is more society's goals, or something like in terms of credibility or comparison to other people. It's like, if I earn 50 grand this year, then that means I'm a success, versus I just want to like go on adventures and do this because I just want to. So it's just that differentiation between allowing your soul's desires to float up just because, versus picking what you think you might need from society in order to feel like a good person, if that makes sense. So and it's also that then becomes your rocket fuel, because it's like, I'm doing this for me, you know,
Yeah.
and that's my drive versus doing it to keep up with the Joneses kind of thing. So like with everything, Julie, I'm going to ask you, you know, with those things, have you got a deadline or a day that you can schedule these things in? I just want to challenge you to put that out there now, to be accountable.
Yeah, and this is the important bit for me now, isn't it? I want to get away from, I've got away from all the feelings that trying to go back to work and not managing it means I'm sort of failure. I've sort of got away from all that and my purpose, and it's quite nice that this has come along at this time. So I'm like, I just had it in my brain as those things like, well, yeah, it's quite nice that will perhaps have July as its deadline, as like, again, as everybody rocks back home like for the summer holidays and things. This is, I feel as if this is going to be my time for doing things that make me feel good, and I will put them in on a calendar as like my jobs, but nice jobs
rather than the to-do list. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, and if I can't, you know, if I can't do that for myself for 3 months at this point, when can I? I've been through like so much shit. I've had enough of the shit now. I do want to move on from the shit, but I'm also accepting that if I don't learn what makes me feel good again, I can't actually then function and decide. And it is more of a decide now. It's not whether I go back, it's what do I do? It's like, do I try and go back, or do I start thinking about other things?
And you'll find that the more you put yourself in a, like I said, the frequency and the vibration of feeling good, the more opportunities will become attracted to you. So who knows, your next perfect job opportunity, quote unquote, may just materialize because you're in the right place at the right time doing what you love, and then somebody offers you an opportunity, an experience, a position, you know, like, oh, we've been looking for a teaching assistant, or we've been looking for this person to help with our teaching, blah blah, I don't know, you know, but when you put yourselves in the situations where you just are feeling good about yourself, you then become magnetic. So that's the point, is to just kind of follow your bliss, you know, to be disciplined in your bliss, or blissiplined, as one of my friends says.
And that's different, isn't it? It's like, to me, it feels a more purposeful.
Yeah.
Instead of thinking I'm trying to get ready to go back to work, which I think I was probably doing, instead of feeling like that, and I was thinking, no, just put that on the back burner. My body, my mind is not ready for that yet.
Amazing.
And anything I want to do is not going to cost any money. I'm probably spending a lot less money. So the career and money bit was like, forget that for now. I'm not spending money. I've stopped shopping.
There you go. Perfect. So you've got your big rocks, you've got your priorities for Q2, and you've got a way to schedule it in and plan it. And you know that they're for you. They're not, you know, like I say, keeping up with the Jones. So congrats.
Yeah.
Amazing.
And it doesn't scare me that it's like, I want, you know, the planning bits, and sometimes you're thinking like the longer term. I think it always scared me. It's like, well, come on, girl, you've got to do something after Q2. You know, you've got to be thinking about what you're going to do. And actually, at the minute, I don't actually want to. I think July would be a good time to think, well, do it then. Do it then. Feel good first.
Exactly. And you just never know what's going to come up. So it's just about being in the moment and pivoting at each point, and knowing you can go in every direction at all times in each and every moment. So congrats.
Be open to it. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. Be open to just receiving the guidance. Like we said, just like going, I don't need to know. I'm just going to put one foot in front of the other, you know?
Yes.
Amazing. Thanks for sharing, Julie. Who else would like to share? We've got some time. What came up for you during that meditation? Yeah, go on, Karen.
Karen,
go on, Karen. You unmuted yourself first.
Yes, it's mine again. It's the same thing all the time. When we got to love and relationships, I didn't feel anything at all. And then when it got to health and vitality, just first of all, I burnt up. And then all I seen was a bright yellow light, which is the one I always see. It was surrounded with bright yellow like the sun. And then I seen the face that I always see. And then when it went to Korea on Monday, all my arms went cold. I just went really, really cold. And I think it's affirming to me that there's something spiritual that I need to be doing. I've had a lot of things I haven't spoken to recently, but I've had a lot of things happen recently, and I think they're trying to tell me something. But that I had to get on the floor because I nearly fainted during that meditation. So I know that they were here with me.
Powerful.
I don't know. Comes over me. And that's why I went to turn that off, because I thought on the video. I usually keep it on. I thought I feel like I was going to faint.
Yeah.
Sorry if I've scared anyone.
No, it's just a sign that you're open to and receiving lots of energies. You know, your channels are open. So I'd invite you to not that you were saying that you were scared of it, but just, you know, this is just, you've got such a good self-awareness, a proprioception, you know, like the fact that you were noticing where the energies, you felt them in your body. It's very somatic experience. And that's just indicative of the fact that, like I said, our body is like the bank of our subconscious, really. It holds our memories, and, you know, it is the vessel through which our energy is transferred to the world. So, you know, you're just experiencing the transference and the experience of energy in your body. So it's just noticing what you notice. And I mean, in terms of the, you know, the nearly fainting aspect, obviously, you know, there may be sort of other contributing factors to that. So just be, you know, I know that you're on it in terms of your health and your, you know, doctor's visits and things like that, but obviously take care of yourself. But, you know, there may be other things afoot, but just to be aware of it and to just receive it and just know that all of that, you know, you're receiving something in one way, shape or form. You know, you may not know exactly what it means just yet, but just be open to it. But yeah, thank you for sharing. Interesting. Yeah. Ulla, did you want to say something? Oh, there you are.
Yeah. Well, the creative one, it was like, you're doing all right, keep on, and it's okay. Work, nothing. I mean, nothing. Right, completely. I said, well, I don't have to know it. Everything will come. But it was absolutely no feeling. Health, it's like, I already said it's 10, it's a lot, but it's all right, and you get the rest done, and you can do more. I feel like I can do something for it. So the worst, the love and relation, it was the one I didn't like. It was like, well, probably it's not the right relationship. Or it's my way, how I'm attached to the things, and probably I have to do much more work on me, on my way to see the things, even if it's a psychological thing. And I mean, it was from this life map, it was the biggest goal, was I have to if I get this thing done, everything will be okay. But then in the end, asking, it came down like, I have to be friendly to me, and then the relationships will be okay. So, but this is something, it just doesn't, yeah.
I'm hearing a lot of frustration.
Yes.
So when we are frustrated, is our body tense or is it relaxed? Okay. And if we want to be open and receptive, what physiology do we think we want to have?
We should be relaxed.
So I just invite you to, like, I think your homework, Ulla, is just going to just keep reaffirming, just relax. So even in those moments when it's blank, and I totally feel you, because I feel the same sometimes, you know, there's areas where when I go to visualize it, it's just blank. And it's just a sign or an indication that we are trying too hard. Like we're trying so hard, you know. And we want to be, it's a bit like the analogy I give is like, if you're trying to water the garden with a hose and you're holding the hose like super, super tight, and you're like, come on, water, you know, the water's just not going to be able to flow through the hose. So our job, our homework really is to just try and relax as much as possible and open ourselves up, you know, so it may not come in this initial meditation, and that's fine. It's just an indication of where you're at. So for you and for all of you, you know, the homework really is to just reaffirm that need to just relax, just to allow and receive, you know. So in that frustration of like, but I want to know now, like, why isn't any answers coming through now? Right. That is
because I don't know how many years are left. I mean,
so we're putting a pressure on needing to know now because of certain timelines, right?
Yeah.
And that just prevents us from being in the reception or being in the receivership of the answers that we're so desperately trying to get. So, you know, this is a lesson I constantly still learn myself, but it is just, we've all got to just stop trying to figure it out and just allow the answers to come. And that may sound irritating in the moment, because you're like, yeah, but I still want to know now. But really, as I say, the best gift I can give to you is just, honestly, just keep affirming that I will know, I do know, my soul knows. And
it's written down.
Yeah. So like I said, at the moment, like your conscious mind and your subconscious mind are kind of in conflict. And that's why things don't necessarily materialize. We need to get our conscious brain and our subconscious mind on the same page. We need to remove like mental conflict, basically. And that mental conflict can come from, you know, the beliefs that we have about things, about how the world works. But the dominant idea, the thing that we are thinking all the time, is the thing that's going to be received by our subconscious. So like I said at the beginning or earlier on, if our dominant idea is, I don't know, or I can't get to it, or I don't have enough money, then that is what's going to be in our subconscious programming. But from today onwards, if you just keep saying to yourself, especially sort of just as you're drifting off to sleep at night, and sort of if you meditate in the morning, I don't need to know because my soul knows. Just keep reaffirming that story, and then your reality is going to change. You're going to start to receive more guidance because, you know, you are going to relax more in that sense of like, it's okay, I'm taken care of. Everything's rigged in my favor. You know, it's all good. Everything's going to work out perfectly. I don't need to know. I don't need to figure it out because my soul knows. So that's my invitation to you, is to just write that on a Post-it note somewhere and just have it around so that you can just, yeah, exactly. And just see how it changes. You know, we're basically trying to hypnotize the subconscious mind so that our programming is different, because with that frustration and with that I don't know, we just get more confusion and more frustration. We just amplify, you know, the emotion that we're in. So that's the key, really. Amazing. Okay. Would anybody else like to share what came through for them in their meditation? Go on then, Ariana.
Yeah, just a quick one. So in this quarter, I'm hoping for surgery. That should be happening in June. And I just suddenly realised, if everything goes to plan, I'll be cancer-free by the 1st of July.
Yes!
And I know there's an awful lot of ifs and buts and all the rest of it, but it's that sudden realisation that is one really proper possible outcome. Also, with having surgery, there's an awful lot of like having to just be completely passive and just let the treatment work and let the drugs work, and there's not an awful lot you can do. But I just had this realization, if I'm going for surgery, I want to be strong. And I wrote down strong, lean and supple. And I just thought, right, well, that's my my aim now. I'm not just doing yoga just when I kind of force myself because I think it might be good. You know, it's like I've got a real focus to be as fit as I can be for the next steps.
Amazing. Love that.
Thank you.
So Iona, I'm going to challenge you now, because this is the thing. We've started to dream into existence, activating our imagination and our soul's desires, right? And you've kind of got that sense of, what was it? Strong,
lean and supple.
Okay, strong, lean and supple. That's your heart's desires, right? Your heart desires to be strong, lean and supple. It's brilliant. So then we kind of have this task of, this is your priority for Q2. You know, you can have them like as your guiding lights, your North Star. How are you going to make that happen? What does that look like for you? So are you going to join a gym? Are you going to buy weights to have at home? What does it look like for you to actually turn that into a reality?
So I think the weights at home, I'm really not ready for a gym. It's not me. But I've got I've got access to some brilliant yoga apps and tutorials and stuff, and I just need to prioritize it.
Okay, so what day are you gonna do that?
I think I need to do yoga every day. I think
Okay.
I've got the time, I've got no excuse. So yeah, so I think I need to, I've got so many like daily yoga challenges that I've printed off and then never really finished.
Okay.
I'm still
So
stuck.
that is part of our blessing and our curse when we're in this moment of like super enthusiasm of just like, yeah, I'm going to do yoga every single day. And I'm not saying you shouldn't, but we all do that, don't we? We kind of like, you know, I mean, a client I had last week was kind of like, yeah, I'm going to do 4 workouts a week or something. And, you know, I was like, how many workouts are you doing right now? She's like, oh, none. I'm not doing any. So I was like, right. So you're going to go from 0 to 4. Not saying that that's impossible. I would never say that. But what I would encourage you to do is to start, because we kind of always overestimate what we might achieve in a week versus, you know, underestimating what we can achieve in a year. And so a good place to start is to kind of say, you know, that I'm going to do at least 1 yoga session a week, for example. And if you end up doing one every single day, then that's a Brucey bonus. But the reason I say that is because the mind is a sneaky thing. If we were to say, if you were to kind of say, right, I'm going to do yoga every single day, and you said you're going to start that from tomorrow or start that from the 1st of April, whatever it is that you decide to do, and we can kind of, you know, help to hold you accountable by getting you to give us a date today. But if we were to say, right, I'm going to do yoga every single day, that means that as soon as that one day when you miss the yoga, then you start to affirm something, a different story in your mind, which is that I don't follow through or I fail, quote unquote. Whereas if you set your expectations or your challenges, say at a more achievable, attainable, like a super easy win, you know, it's just like, I just need to do 1 yoga session in April. That's it. Like start with that, for example. And then once you've done that, everything else is a bonus. So you might say, I just need to do it once in April or once a week, whatever it is, right? So starting small with, you know, a small incremental change and get it, like we've sort of said with Julie, and just sort of like actually calendarizing it and saying, you know, if you were to look at your calendar, whether it's a paper diary or a Google calendar right now, I'm just going to challenge you and say, if there was one day of the week and one part of that day, so like a morning or an afternoon of one day of, let's say next week, what day or what morning, what afternoon would be your yoga morning or your yoga thing?
Okay, I'm going to say Thursday.
Okay, what time on Thursday?
Let's do Thursday morning.
Oh, just morning? Do you have a specific time that would work?
Okay, let's say 11 o'clock.
All right. So next Thursday at 11 o'clock. And do you want that to be your weekly challenge?
Yeah, sure.
So every Thursday in April at 11 a.m. you're going to do yoga.
Okay.
Yeah.
I want to do more, but yeah, I totally get
Yeah.
this
No, of
idea
course.
Of
The point
setting
is
a nice low bar to start off with.
exactly. And like I said, you could do it every single day of the week at 11 a.m. Like do it twice a day if you want. Do whatever you want. But the point is that when you achieve that initial goal, then, as I say, everything else is just an additional bonus. It's not that you're setting yourself up for failure by saying, I'm going to do it every single day. And then by the time you've missed one, then you feel like, oh, well, I've screwed it up now. So, you know, it's just about the story that we tell ourselves and the story that we want to affirm, basically. Make sense?
Yes.
Okay. So awesome. Brilliant. Anybody else want to share anything before I move on? No? Okay, fantastic. So this is really the key, you guys. You know, you've started the process off. You've got your priorities, or at least an idea about what your priorities might be. And if you're still a little bit foggy about what those priorities might be, well, that there is your homework, you know. I'm going to be clipping out the meditation that we did today. But again, it's ultimately about just sort of like relaxing into the process, surrendering yourself to receive the guidance, to stop trying to figure it out. And then it's about cleaning house in terms of removing the mental conflict. So looking at the beliefs that might be getting in the way, that might have prevented you from achieving this in the first place. So kind of questioning and saying, well, why is it that I've not had this already? Is it maybe that I don't believe I'm allowed to receive it, or that I can do it? So it's just about removing that mental conflict that is preventing you. So the limiting beliefs, the restrictions, the blocks, the obstacles, right? So just cleaning house. And a clever way to remove mental conflict is to reaffirm what it is that you want in the way, by ways of a question. So I like to, affirmations are great, but these things I'm going to teach you is called lofty questions, right? Which basically is like affirmations, but on steroids. So it's a way of activating it's what's called the reticular activation system, or your RAS. So in order to remove any mental conflict that has kind of stopped you or prevented you from getting what you wanted in the first place. So, either Julie or Iona, you sort of spoke before, but either if you wanted to unmute and say, what is it that you think kept you from doing these things that you're now prioritizing for the next quarter? Is there perhaps, a limiting belief, or what do you think has kept you from achieving what you want to do now? What stopped you before?
So hard. It's good to look back and try and think what it was. And I do think now, looking back through my diary, I think I went through quite a lot of putting blame on and come on girl, kicking myself up the backside and say, come on, get on with it. Why aren't you doing it? I was asking myself the question, but wasn't really looking at the bigger picture like I've just done. That January, it was packed full with bad news and bad appointments and still treatment that was overdue. The treatment knocked me down, and all through that I'm like, come on, why aren't I doing these things that I said I was going to do? And now I almost like, I think, come on, yeah, there's big reasons why you didn't do what you thought you should have been doing, because it's a lot of it was to do with my health and wanting to do it. Whereas now I feel as if, okay, do you know what, some of those appointments are still going to be in there. It's not all gone away. I've still got these appointments to do, but I have only got to deal with those when they pop up. And for the rest of the time now, I am focusing on the calendar that has got it in for me, and not for things that I should do around it, like getting ready to go back to work. I'm still sorting out my health, and that's become like a huge priority, even just while I'm sitting here now. And like the determination is so different, whereas last week I had none of that. I was just lost, and if you asked me what was wrong, all I could say was everything. Couldn't pinpoint a thing that was wrong. It was just everything. Where you said bus stops was good, where you said, like, you can take your mind everywhere. Actually, everywhere my mind went last week was a bad place. It didn't work at all. Whereas that person seems to have gone again now. I think, I'm like,
amazing.
Whew.
I mean, she's there for a reason as well, she's still a part of you, but it's who we put in the driving seat. That's the point. We have all these different facets, these different versions of us, and sometimes they've been sat in the driving seat, they've even got to pick what goes on the radio, but they're not in charge. They don't need to be in charge.
It reminded me, it took me back to life mapping, not when I was in it, but when I came out, I was like, oh, there's Blue Dew, because that's what I'd called her. Like, that was Blue Dew, big style. So I know it's part of me, but she took over for a bit. Amazing. But she told me to stop working, and for that I'm very grateful.
You're welcome. So for you, Julie, it sounds as if what blocked you before, was circumstance, but like you said, there was sort of an element of blaming yourself, blaming other people, so sort of that just feeling like you're a victim of life, shall we say, perhaps, so things are happening to me. So I'm hearing that belief of like, life is happening to me. I'm not happening to life. Okay. So that is sort of how you can see that your beliefs is what's created your reality, because what you believe to be true, has created the outpicturing or the reality that you're experiencing. So now you get the opportunity, which we've already done to a certain extent, but as in you've already started this process, is to, create a new reality based on new beliefs. And we're hypnotizing the subconscious mind to basically create that new outcome for us. So we're declaring something different. And in order to help with that, you know, we can come up with these lofty questions, like I said. So it's kind of about asking or saying an affirmation, but in a way that is, you know, can only be answered in the positive. So I heard you talking about, you know, like the reason why Q2 is going to be such a success is because you're going to prioritize your calendar and prioritize your health, right? So an affirmation might look like, I am prioritizing my health, I am prioritizing my calendar. But a lofty question is asking a why question. It's posing a question to your prefrontal cortex with a why. So it's saying, why am I so good at prioritizing my health? Why am I so good at prioritizing my calendar? Whatever that looks like for you. So for all of you, it's about just translating, you know, seeing where the mental blocks have come from before, noticing like the limited identity, the limiting beliefs, you know, whether you also were feeling like life was happening to you rather than you were happening to life. And then just deciding and declaring, you know, who it is that you want to be, you know, who do you want to show up as, what do you want to believe about yourself, and turning that into a more of a, like I say, a lofty question, an affirmation, which is going to help to reaffirm this new reality. So much so that you say these things to yourself over and over, you know, first thing in the morning and last thing at night. You're reaffirming this reality. You're affirming it because it's true. So this is kind of a nice distinction I like to make between, you know, some people will say affirmations in the hopes that what they're saying will become true, right? But with lofty questions, and the way that we want to think about affirmations is that I affirm it because it is true. So it's kind of that difference of like, I'm not saying it in the hopes that it becomes true. It doesn't become true because I say it. I'm saying it because it is true. Does that make sense? The difference between how you sort of come at your affirmations. It's like, I'm affirming this because it is already true. So then that starts to make you more magnetic, and more, the idea and the concept of what you're attracting then becomes more of a conviction within you that this is my reality, that yeah, I prioritize my calendar and I prioritize my health. That then becomes the dominant idea that is accepted by your subconscious mind. And then that means that your subconscious mind and your conscious mind are in parity, they're in agreement. So there's no mental conflict, which just makes the path much clearer. Does that make sense to everybody? Any thoughts on that? Any reflections? Anybody see anything new, or have a lofty question that they're going to be asking themselves for the next 3 months? And I recommend having a list, or having, you know, your lofty questions written down and read them to yourself first thing in the morning with your either with your meditation practice or whatever it is that you do. But yeah, anybody see anything new for themselves or want to offer what they're thinking right now?
The big one for me is around, you talk about surrender and trust. It's that anxious voice in the back of my head that says something bad is going to happen. And it's not kind of conscious, it's just like an unconscious felt sense of like, well, something bad is around the corner. Mm-hmm. So I wondered if you had any advice, really, because I guess a question I was thinking of asking is, why do I trust the process so much? Mm-hmm. Why do I have so much faith, or something like that? Mm-hmm. But then I grapple between wanting to surrender and go with the flow and trust the process, whilst also knowing that in order to get to where I want to be, there's going to be a lot of hard work. It's kind of navigating those two positions. Mm-hmm. Because when I swing too much into doing the hard work, I kind of lose trust. And when I trust too much, I find that I get a little bit complacent. I just wondered if you had any advice about that.
Well, the one you came up with initially, I thought was great. Say it again.
What was it? Like, I trust the process. Why do I trust the process so much?
It's basically about just coming up with a question that, as I say, isn't in conflict with. So at the moment, your dominant idea is that it's going to be hard work. And I think you said there was a lot of like fear around things going wrong. Was that what you said? Yeah. So at the moment, your sort of more dominant idea is that things are going to go wrong and that it's going to be hard work. So it's about translating or transforming those questions in such a way that isn't in direct conflict. Because at the moment, if you just said things are going to be easy and things aren't going to go wrong, because those other ideas are so strong, your subconscious mind is probably going to reject them. So a good way to kind of take baby steps is to just go like every day in every way, things are getting easier and easier. or every day in every way, I'm becoming more confident in the process, because that's not going to directly conflict with your bigger, more dominant idea. And you can believe that because you're like, well, yeah, I am progressing. So it's like every day in every way, you know, my business is growing, or whatever it is. Like, do those help at all?
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Thank you.
Yeah, no worries. Yeah. So it is just about that, you know, little baby steps to, as I say, break down that miscommunication between your conscious mind and your subconscious mind to bring them more into alignment, to hypnotize your subconscious mind to the point where this then becomes your programming. And you almost need to visualize that new reality for yourself. So I invite you, Martha, and everyone, with that point that you were talking about. So this point with this training that you're doing, you know, this idea that it's going to be hard work. Remember that the universe is always listening. It's always taking your order. So if you're saying it's going to be hard work, it'd be like, and so it is, right? So I'm not saying it's not going to be challenging. I'm not going to say it's not going to be difficult, but we get to choose how we see that, right? So again, an invitation maybe to just re-choose the wording around that is like, it's going to be challenging. It's going to be, I'm going to grow so much, you know, and picture yourself at the end of it, having completed it, looking back and putting yourself in that situation where you are literally feeling the emotions, you know, visualize yourself already having what you desire. So you've completed it, you've done it, you know, and all the emotions that came with that experience, like how good it feels. And just like I said, like energizing that reality on the other side, having completed it, and reaffirming that along with the lofty questions, along with these affirmations that just create more of a conviction within you. And when you're in that conviction and that strong sense of belief, what then happens is that you start to attract what it is that you need to you in order to achieve what you want. So it might be, you know, that you are attracting certain people, situations, circumstances, whatever, to come into your life that, and just to use your example, Martha, that makes it less hard or less difficult or whatever it is, you know, but it's just, you know, and even for you, Julie, as well, we've been talking about your job and your work. So it's just about visualizing the reality that you want, that your heart desires, picturing yourself already there, living that, and living with that conviction puts you into a different kind of vibration that makes you magnetic. And then, you know, as we said, trusting in the process really means that if you think about the fact that when you, as sort of a flippant example, when you cut yourself, your body does everything to just heal that cut. It just says yes, you know, just says yes to healing. And when you put a plant or a seed, I should say, in the ground, in the earth just says yes, unless it's crap soil, of course. But even crap soil tries its best, you know, to receive that seed and to grow the plant. So our world is wired for yes, it's wired for abundance. There is only good. You know, when we talk about this in spiritual psychology and science of mind, the concept of evil or bad or fear is really just us misusing our power, misusing our mind power, misusing our energy. You know, so any sense of fear, any sense of things might be going wrong is just a misrepresentation and a misunderstanding and a separation from who we are, which is we are the infinite, all-powerful creative beings capable of absolutely anything that we put our minds to. So, you know, to kind of, again, use a flippant example, I'm going to use the God word, but those of you who know me know that I don't mean God as some man in the sky, but God being this all-powerful energy that is the backing of all things in the universe. You know, does that see difficulty or hardness in anything? You know, does it see, you know, does it find anything challenging, really? You know, so it's only us as having this human experience where we've kind of put these stories in our own way of things being challenging, difficult, or whatever. And it's just because of the relative truth we have about something. So we get to just challenge those conceptions, challenge those beliefs, and come to a different reality. There's like 7.6 billion people, I think, on the planet, all have different relative experiences and perceptions of what reality is, which just blows my mind. You know, so there's just so many different ways of looking at absolutely everything. So it's just an understanding that how we're looking at something is just our relative truth in that moment, basically. So it's just about trusting in the process, knowing that the world and the universe is wired for good. It's wired for yes. It just says yes. So whatever we're putting out, we're getting back. So even if things don't seem to be happening as quickly as we would like, we just need to trust that the universe is going to bring out, the best outcome for us, that is for our highest good. So in that, we can kind of affirm that this or something greater is on the way to us, that everything is just rigged in our favor. Everything's in perfection and everything is always working out for me, operating from that place. Okay. And then the last step is really just about having gone through all of that. It's holding it lightly and just, having that fierce and focused attention on what it is that we want, but with no attachment to the outcome. So just saying, I know what I'm aiming for. I don't care how I get there. And I don't care if that's actually the end result per se. But it's just, it's having this sort of loose attachment or zero attachment, just trusting that the outcome is going to be the perfect outcome, no matter what emerges. It's just going to be for the highest good. So just holding it lightly, taking inspired action towards it, like in my business, for example. I know that my ultimate intention is to be of service and to help people. And right now, my business looks how it looks, but who's to say that it might look completely different in 6 months? And I'm okay with that. I don't have like a really strong, no, it has to be this. It has to be that. It's just, I know where I'm headed. I know what my North Star, I know what my heart's desiring. How I get there and what it kind of looks like along the way, I'm open to receiving and again, to just being at those infinite number of bus stops of just like going, oh, okay, I'm going to go off in this direction now. That's fun, and just seeing what materializes. So it's like knowing what you want, but then holding it lightly and being open and available to receiving all the different facets and the different ways that it could be. So there we go, guys. So I'm really hoping that you got a lot from today's workshop. The recording will be sent out to you, and it's also going to be uploaded to the Facebook, so you can listen again. And as I say, I'm going to clip out that meditation that we did in the middle, so that you can go back and revise. But really just to kind of reaffirm what your homework is from this workshop, things that you can do and the next steps that you're going to take. So your homework really is to just affirm the truth and affirm what it is that you desire. So looking at that list of your heart's desires that we went through in the meditation, just practice and affirming like what it is that you know to be true. Because if you're affirming it as if it's already happened, as if it's already here, then it starts to become that conviction. So using your lofty questions to clear up any mental conflict as well and activate your reticular activation system. And that's going to help for, just looking for the proof in your life as it is right now. Okay, so you're energizing the vision, the idea of your future, those priorities. You're going to calendarize them, get them down in your diary. And then you're going to have your inspired actions. So, looking at each week in terms of your priorities, what is the one thing that you can do this week that's going to take you closer to that big rock, that big priority? So Iona, we know that we've got yoga for you, but there may be other priorities that you have that you identify. And it's just about sitting down, say, having a little, chat with yourself on a Sunday night or something, and just saying, okay, this is my priority. I know that I want this. I know that my heart wants this to happen over the next 3 months. So what am I actually going to do this week? What's the one thing that I can focus on that by doing so makes everything else easier or maybe even unnecessary? So I'm going to focus on that one thing and I'm going to plan it into my diary. So with that, I'm just going to open up and see if there's one action step that all of you ideally, but if only some of you want to share, that's okay too. What action step are you guys going to take in the next 7 days? Who'd like to go first?
I think my big one is, God, shall I go skip it? My biggest one is to get that calendar habit back, because I've been, I'm very good at filling the week as it comes, but when I look ahead to the following week, that can be quite empty. And I know what I want to do, but I think it's got to be a lot more, I've got to have some sort of structure. And especially with not having the job now, I feel as if like the structure is going to be more important to make sure I get the most of it for me. So the calendar is my step, and I'll put a day on it. And at the moment I'm thinking probably Saturday, because my children are coming back on Sunday, which might stop me from doing it. So Saturday I'm going to sit down with my calendar and do that every week, Saturday.
Awesome. Who else?
Mine's just to prioritize what's important. I'm going to prioritize what's important.
Fantastic. Good work. And Ulla, do you have an action step you're going to do?
Probably get relaxed. I think everything I would try to just no.
No worries.
Yeah.
Awesome. Martha, what about you?
I'm going to book a dance class.
Yay!
Not done it in years.
Love it. Send us a picture. What kind of dancing?
I used to do all sorts, but I'd like to do something that's relates to free expression, really. I'd like to do something that's a little bit more just like loose, see what's around.
Yeah, love it. Open yourself up. Fantastic. Awesome. Nice work, guys. Well, thank you so much for joining me. Thank you for going over. I didn't know exactly how long this workshop was going to be, so 2.5 hours. I think half an hour over is a respectable overflow. And thank you so much for just turning up and for doing this work, because you know, the more we all do this work together, the more we rise together. So, you know, my joy and my prosperity lies in helping you guys rise up and thrive. So I just want to thank you, because without you, I wouldn't get to do this job. So just thanks for giving me the best job in the world. And I've enjoyed it. I really hope you guys have. And I'm hoping to be able to do this more often. I'll probably end up doing this every quarter. So check back and see when the link is. I threw this one together a little bit at the last minute. So I would welcome any feedback that you've got, any requests as well. But otherwise, just wanted to say thank you so much for being here and for participating fully, playing full out, which is always great. Because like I said, I like to get the response and the interaction with everybody. So I appreciate it. And I wish you guys the most amazing rest of your Friday and a fantastic kick-ass Q2. Come on. Let's have it. All right then, guys. Well, let's just do a little pray out together before we leave. So just closing your eyes, bringing your hands together and just taking a nice, long, slow, deep breath in through the nose and letting it go. And again, nice, long, slow, deep breath in. And letting it go. And once more, nice, long, slow, deep breath in. And letting it go. And I just recognize in this moment just the wisdom that comes from stopping and standing still. The wisdom that comes from reflection, of noticing what is, of being present to what is. Just recognizing that when we allow the infinite intelligence to flow freely through us, as us, for us, the revelations that can be revealed. Knowing that in each and every moment it gets to be this easy. Knowing that that is really our only job, is to just feel good in life, to allow the life force to flow through us, to allow any sense of fear, any sense of struggle, any sense of frustration, merely to just dissolve and fall away, knowing that soul work really is an act of subtraction, of taking away all the falsities, all the false beliefs, removing the obstacles. We do not need to add anything. Knowing that we just need to simply take away that which is not serving us. Removing more of the armor, removing more of the obstacles, the blocks. The blocks that block us and obscure us from seeing our true identity, the truth of what and who we are. Knowing that at the core of us we are infinite potential. We are pure consciousness. And just knowing this to be true for each and every person on this call, knowing that we are now established in the kingdom of goodness, knowing that we can come back to the truth of our identity, that we are the creators of our realities, knowing that right thought can, must, and will create right conditions, knowing that the truth known is followed by the truth demonstrated. And I just know this to be true for each and every person on this call, and I just give so much thanks for this wisdom, for this knowledge, for the opportunity to share this. Thank you for the technology that allows us to connect. And I just say thank you for all the infinite possibilities of what life can look like. I say thank you for my relative truth in this moment, and I give thanks for the fact that this can be myriad different opportunities, different picturings. And I just give thanks for all of it. I give thanks for the ups, for the downs, knowing that each and everything is just a representation of the hero's journey, knowing that everything is rigged in our favor. So I just give thanks to all of it. Thanks for the awakening. Thanks for the opportunity for reflection. And thank you for the heart's desires that came forth today, knowing that they came through for those that they are meant for. Knowing that this reality is theirs, it's already on the way, it's in the post. This or something greater. And I just know that my words have power, my words are activating the laws of creation, the laws of manifestation, of pure potentiality. Knowing that I am energizing the laws with my words, using the one mind that is my mind now, that is the mind of every single person on this call, should they choose to use it to the extent to which they receive that which they desire. So I just release this out into the universe, knowing that it is done, as together we say, and so it is. And so it is. Have a blessed Friday, everybody, and catch up with you all soon. Namaste.
Namaste.
Namaste. Bye. Bye.
Muchas gracias.
De nada. No pasa nada.